The Nigerian Labour Congress has given the remaining states of Katsina, Cross River and Zamfara an ultimatum to implement the new minimum wage of 70,000 naira by December 1 or face a strike. This comes after 33 states and the Federal Capital Territory have already complied with the 2024 National Minimum Wage Act. The states that have complied have also agreed to pay above the 70,000 naira starting point, with Lagos and Rivers offering the highest pay at 85,000 naira. Lagos has also announced that its workers will receive up to 100,000 naira monthly from the first quarter of 2025. In a related development, River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has announced the implementation of an 85,000 naira minimum wage for state workers, despite what he describes as efforts by enemies of the state to disrupt funding. Speaking at the 2025 Armed Forces Remembrance Emblem Appeal launch in Port Harcourt, Fubara said the policy has boosted civil servants' pay to between 120,000 naira and 140,000 naira, bringing much-needed relief. Governor Fubara also doubled the state's support for the Nigerian Legion, donating 40 million naira and honoring fallen soldiers' sacrifices, noting his personal connection as the son of a military officer. He addressed delays in employment and scholarships, promising action soon to fulfill commitments to families of fallen heroes.
A lot of you that are here, I know you've been hearing one thing or the other. But what we're doing is not different from what these fallen heroes did for our country. Some persons who have decided to be enemies of the state wanted us to experience a dark, or will I say a black Christmas. But because we're determined to make sure that the interests of River State should be the first thing, we're able, not easy, but to meet our obligation as a government. And today, I can say boldly that our civil servants are happy. Even in the face of all the propaganda that my location fell inside one bridge. But the civil servants are happy. We are the first state, not just making the promise, but living up to that promise. Today, civil servants that were collecting 70,000 before are jubilating with 120, 140. What is the greatest joy any government can achieve? It's not, you might do some project, you might do that, but the most important thing is the happiness that you live in the hearts of people. That is the truth. People will forget that Dr. Odili built this banquet hall. But they won't forget the story when they couldn't pay their children's school fee because of poor salary, and their salary now improved. They will always remember, look, if not for that government, this my son would have been a graduate. If not for that salary, this my son will not be a lawyer. He will not be a judge. He will not be an engineer. So the most important thing is making sure that our Rivers people are put first in everything we do. So let me thank every one of you that have continued to support us. God doesn't start and end halfway. We're determined to follow this journey, and we'll follow it to the end, where everyone will know that it is only God Almighty that gives power.
We now head to the Parliament, where the Senate has passed 4 tax reform bills for a second reading aimed at simplifying tax administration and resolving revenue disputes in Nigeria. Leading the debate, Senate leader Bamidele Okpeyemi emphasized that the reforms would ease the tax burden on low-income earners. However, Senator Ali Dume urged further consultation, citing concerns about revenue sharing and VAT clauses. Despite objections, the bills advanced through voice votes. In a separate session, the Senate paid tribute to former Senate President Dr. Joseph Wayes during a valedictory ceremony. Senators praised his leadership and national service as his remains lay in state at the National Assembly, draped in the national flag. The chamber described Wayes as a symbol of democracy and governance.
These bills aim to simplify the tax landscape, reduce the burden on small business, and streamline how taxes are collected. In broad terms, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, the 4 bills seek to ensure uniformity in tax revenue administration in Nigeria in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution.
The third problem I mentioned, if the people, through the governors, and then the NEC and the traditional rulers say that the bill should be withdrawn, make some necessary amendments, and then bring it back, and we can pass it in 24 hours. The moment oil was discovered in the creeks of the Niger Delta, 1957-58, Nigeria found free money in the creeks of the Niger Delta, and we left taxation, just as we left agriculture and manufacturing. So that's where we are.
We have since yesterday exhaustively examined all the aspects of this tax reform bill, and in line with our legislative procedure in making laws, agreed earlier today that these bills be passed for a second reading, so that when it is referred to the appropriate committee, especially at the third reading, all the gray areas and areas of concern by Nigerians and some concerned citizens should be addressed appropriately at that level.
I am particularly on the issue of reducing the tax burden on Nigerians, removing VAT on food, medicals, education, pharmaceuticals, and electricity were exempted from VAT. So this bill is noble. It's for people because it's trying to reduce the tax burden on Nigerians.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to repeal certain acts on taxation and consolidate the legal frameworks relating to taxation and enact the Nigeria Tax Act to provide for taxation of income, transactions, and instruments, and for related matters 2024. Second reading taken.
The House of Representatives has confirmed Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede as the substantive Chief of Army Staff following his screening by the Joint Committees on Defense and Army. Oluyede's confirmation comes after the death of ex-Army Chief General Taoreed Lagbaja earlier in November 2024. During the screening, Oluyede showcased his experience in war and negotiation skills, strategic security knowledge, and vision. He also addressed issues related to funding, war on terror, insurgency and banditry, as well as accountability and transparency in the use of public resources. With his confirmation, Oluyede becomes the 24th Chief of Army Staff.
The House in Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Ad hoc Committee on Confirmation Screening for Acting Chief of Army Staff and approved the only recommendation therein that Lieutenant General Olotobosun Oluyede be confirmed as the Chief of Army Staff of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. support of this motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The report of the Committee of the Whole is hereby adopted as a working instrument of the Parliament.
The Parliament graciously appointed us to screen the acting service chief. We did that yesterday. We reviewed his CV. We questioned him on various issues, which included interagency synergy, civilian-military relationships. Our observation, sir, is that General Olatubosun Oluyode is fit and proper and gave a very good account of himself. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, we urge that this House do approve this new position as a new Chief of Army Staff.
Well, staying with the Parliament, the House of Representatives has launched an investigation into the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPCL, over allegations of withheld funds and unremitted revenue. The investigation will focus on the company's purported petrol subsidies and tax remissions amounting to 8.48 trillion naira and $2 billion respectively. The House further stated that the investigation will address the NATI report stating that NNPC, now NNPCL, failed to remit $2 billion, that's 3.6 trillion naira in taxes to the federal government. The committees were further directed to verify the total cumulative amount of unremitted revenue under recovery from the sale of petrol by the NNPC between 2020 and 2023. Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State says the Almajiri system must no longer be allowed to hold back Nigeria. Speaking at a regional conference in Lafia on population dynamics, security and out-of-school children, Sule called for northern leaders to end the practice, describing it as a time bomb. He emphasized the need for parents to take responsibility for their children, criticizing the practice of sending young kids to beg in the name of Islamic education. Sule highlighted previous failed efforts to address the issue and proposed setting up special schools to rehabilitate Almajiri children in Nasarawa. The event, organized by the National Population Commission, revealed Nigeria has over 30 million Almajiri, a global record with calls for urgent reforms. Welcome back to News Now. The Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission has launched a service charter to guide its operations. Representatives from the Commission say that the new charter, expected to be monitored by its Servicom unit, will improve its operations and entrench accountability to the public and boost its operational capabilities.
ICPC having a Servicom unit is very critical because it will help, regulate, it will help monitor, it will observe, and even engage management, engage, our fellow colleagues, make them part of the whole process of providing quality service to Nigerians, to citizens of Nigeria.
The service charter is a document that outlines our obligations to the public and the timelines for meeting these obligations and the public obligations to us as well, so that we can be held accountable for delivering good service, and then we can also hold ourselves accountable for delivering good service to the country. It's going to improve our operations. We now have a template to which we can hold ourselves accountable. Of course, if we are not meeting up to the standards we set for ourselves, we will query ourselves. So it's going to improve our operational services, our administration, our procurement, and all our services all around.
Every organization, every MDA has a target. They have a mandate, and it's important that they must have targets. And how they meet up these targets of their service is by working in accordance with their mandate and the timeline. And to achieve that timeline, there must be the Servicom unit that be able to monitor, and at least to some instances that the mandate is given to the MDA is achieved within the timeline that is so created or been asked to perform and deliver.
The Nigeria Labour Congress has raised concerns over the prevalence of child labour in the country. This was as the NLC president, with officials of the International Labour Organization, met with newsmen in Abuja, the nation's capital, saying there is a need to eradicate the trend. News Central's Emmanuel Bagudu was there and he reports.
Let me start from
a meeting with journalists covering the organized labor in Abuja. The meeting centered around several issues important to the organized labor, including social protection of not just Nigerian workers, but the entire citizenry, and the plight of Nigerian children involved in child labor, which the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress says is a sad reality.
And when you talk of child labor, you could classify them further into children that do not have parents, because they have to look for food to eat. I think where the emphasis may be is on children whose parents are alive and who automatically have become the breadwinners of their families. Because if they don't do it, the children will not eat and their parents will not eat.
This parley aims to foster a deeper understanding of the issues affecting workers and employers, and to explore ways in which we can work together to promote fair labor practices and improve the overall employment landscape in Nigeria.
The media parley also had representatives of the International Labour Organization, the Trade Union Congress, and the Ministry of Labour, all in attendance and accepting full responsibility for the welfare of citizens.
You look at the impact in our economies. The president of the NLC spoke to some of them. You look at the issues with informality. A lot of workers are still trapped in the informal economy where there are decent work deficits.
The burning issue, which is the implementation of the national minimum wage, was also brought to the front burner.
And if on the social date this does not happen, states, these are the things you are supposed to do. And that period has to pass, and for you to find out why they have not done so. I think that's clear. I will not sit down here, of course I know we met yesterday and deliberated on it, but I will not sit down here to say strike is starting A or B. No, that's not what I can say here, because we have to collate state by state activities.
The conversation ended with the Labour correspondents accepting to amplify the efforts made by organized labor to improve the lives of citizens. In Abuja, for News Central, I am Emmanuel Bagudu.
In an effort to address the ongoing displacement crisis in northeastern Nigeria, the federal government, in collaboration with the Borno State government, has announced plans to repatriate Nigerian refugees currently living in Chad, Niger, and other neighboring regions. This initiative was revealed during a visit by the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, Professor Nintawe Yilduwada, to Maiduguri, where he met with key government officials and humanitarian stakeholders. News Central's Umar Kirawa completes the report.
This is Ngubwa community in Chad Republic, where many Nigerians take refuge after years of displacement from their communities. We want to go back, is what some of the refugees who spoke to News Central expressed. The ongoing security and peace-building efforts in the Lake Chad region remains a cause the government is trying to stabilize. This delegation of the Nigerian federal government engaged in talks with the Borno State government. The intention is said to facilitate the safe return of refugees through a structured process that will provide both immediate relief and long-term solutions.
We are developing the humanitarian response plan of Nigeria, and I want to make sure that I mainstream Borno State, which is the mainstay where we have humanitarian crisis in Nigeria. So they will mainstream the state as a focus and focal area in the humanitarian response plan of Nigeria, which we'll be presenting it in January.
And be rest assured that we shall work with you. most importantly on my own side, the IDPs have stayed so long in IDP camp. It has become no more sustainable for us to keep them in the IDP camps. We want them to move out so that they can earn a means of livelihood.
The repatriation process is expected to involve a phased approach, starting with voluntary returns to ensure that displaced individuals are reintegrated safely into their home communities.
We are also working on durable solutions beyond just providing humanitarian help.
This initiative aims to alleviate the burden on neighboring countries and help restore stability to conflict-affected areas in Borno and other parts of the northeast. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
The National Population Commission has announced plans to conduct a national census in 2025, 18 years after the last census in 2006. Chairman Nasir Kwara stated that the delay in conducting the census has hindered information decision-making and also effective resource allocation. He emphasized the need for accurate data to address pressing issues in rural and undeserved areas. The census is expected to provide reliable data for decision-making and promote progress, inclusivity, and empowerment. Census to address sexual and reproductive health rights, gender-based violence, and also inclusivity. The National Youth Service Corps has announced that married female Corps members seeking redeployment will no longer need to provide a change of name. This update was shared in a circular signed by Director Corps Mobilization Abubakar Mohammed on November 25, 2024. The circular stated that the state coordinators should be informed that maiden name change is no longer required for approval. However, other requirements remain the same. State and FCT coordinators must ensure strict compliance, and directors' area offices will monitor the implementation. As the world continues to commemorate the 16 days activism against gender-based violence, stakeholders decry the refusal of families to report cases of violence against their daughters, sons, wives, and husbands. The Ministry of Women Affairs in Abia State, in conjunction with the Office of the Wife of the Governor, held a walk on Thursday to create awareness to the residents of Umuahia on the need for them to demand better form the society and reject violence completely. News Central's Chinwe Ugele has more in this report.
This message is everywhere on the t-shirts, caps and banners as men and women clad in orange color outfits walked the streets of Umuahia. The emphasis is on the emotional, physical and sexual predicaments of people in the hands of spouses, parents, co-workers, pastors and strangers alike.
We're also trying to strike a balance to also encourage men to talk. Now, part of our work is to ensure we reduce, if not eliminate, BV in our community.
Wife of Abia State Governor Priscilla Oti announces that the VAP law, which protects citizens, will be further enhanced in the state for all to understand its dictates.
And are working on translating it into Igbo and Pidgin English to help our people better understand their rights and protections under the law.
She says government is doing everything within its powers to ensure that girls, women and minors are protected adequately.
We remain steadfast in our commitment to justice and the protection of our children and vulnerable individuals.
Commissioner for Women Affairs, Maureen Ahokwa, explains the essence of the translation.
We still need people to come formally to our ministry to report cases. People call me in the morning, they call me at night. Oh, my husband beat me, threw me out of the house. Even high-ranking men, we have a lot of cases in our hands.
While government and its agencies work to handle cases of violence involving men, women, teenagers, infants, and even caregivers, there are those who prefer to keep such matters within their families.
And cases that have been coming to us for settlement, we normally go to the local, we do town hall meetings. I don't know one of the problems we have in FIDA is this a patrilineal, society in Abia.
When that perpetrator, there are nets now around the perpetrator, please don't stop the cause of justice.
The desk officer in charge of gender-based violence in the Criminal Investigation Department of the State Police Command says there is an increase in cases of gender-based violence. It is a campaign geared towards letting everyone know their rights and what not to do to torment others emotionally, physically, and sexually. In Omaha for News Central, I am Chinwe Ugeli.
You watch the news now here on News Central Television. Chad has announced the end of its military cooperation with France just hours after French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot's visit. Foreign Minister Abderrahmane Koulamala stated that Chad wishes to maintain constructive relations with France in other areas of common interest. Despite this, Chad still hosts around 1,000 French troops. The move marks a significant shift in Chad's stance, as it was a key link in France's military presence in Africa. Chad's decision reflects its growing sovereignty and desire for independence from former colonial powers. Meanwhile, French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot has called on foreign nations to stop aiding the warring sides in Sudan's civil war, which has been ongoing since April 2023. The conflict between the army and the Rapid Support Forces has led to accusations of war crimes and has resulted in the deaths of tens of thousands of people and the displacement of over 11 million. Barrot emphasized the need for a ceasefire and the protection of civilians and criticized Russia for vetoing a UN resolution that aimed to achieve this. The United Nations estimates that over half of Sudan's population, approximately 25 million people, are facing acute hunger due to the ongoing conflict. The situation is further complicated by a foreign intervention, with both sides receiving support from external powers.
Aussi grave que celle qui se déroule ici. Et jamais depuis le début du XXIe siècle, autant de personnes ont-elles été exposées à la famine et à la faim. C'est plus de 11 millions de personnes qui ont dû fuir leur foyer au Soudan, et c'est 26 millions de personnes qui aujourd'hui souffrent d'insécurité alimentaire ou de sous-nutrition. Tout cela, ce sont des chiffres, et pour ma part, je n'oublierai jamais les visages et les regards. La situation est trop grave et j'ai donc décidé aujourd'hui d'allouer 7 millions d'euros supplémentaires pour soutenir l'action des organisations onusiennes et des organisations non gouvernementales dans la lutte contre le choléra, dans l'accompagnement des femmes et des enfants en bas âge, et puis dans les efforts qui sont consentis ici pour le rapprochement familial.
Tchad, en tout cas, garde sa stricte neutralité dans ce conflit et fera tout son possible pour faire en sorte qu'il y ait la paix au Soudan. Et la paix au Soudan menace qui? Quel pays voisin que la paix au Soudan, la guerre au Soudan menace? C'est l'unité insuffisante parce que le drame est imprévisible. Personne n'a prévu ce drame, personne n'a prévu autant de monde dans une petite bourgade comme Adré, dans un petit périmètre comme l'Est du Tchad. Nous avons beaucoup de réfugiés, nous avons beaucoup de défis à surmonter.
Well, let's head to East Africa now. Landslides in eastern Uganda have claimed at least 15 lives, with over 100 people still unaccounted for. Heavy rainfall triggered the landslides, affecting 6 villages in the Bulambuli district. Rescue efforts are underway, but impassable roads and continuous rainfall are hindering progress. The Prime Minister has presumed all missing people dead, with efforts focused on exhuming bodies. The Uganda Red Cross is assisting in the rescue operation, with 500 soldiers deployed to aid in the efforts. In Southern Africa, 3 teenagers aged between 16 and 19 have resurfaced from Shaft 10, where they had spent several months underground. According to the teenagers, while they managed to make their way to safety, they said that more illegal miners are still trapped underground. Meanwhile, at least 300 illegal miners appeared at Stilfontein magistrate courts today on charges of trespassing and illegal mining operations in the country. They were denied bail. In the midst of this, however, rescue mission has not commenced for hundreds of miners who remain underground in mine shaft 11. News Central's Bongani Siziba has more in this package.
In the depth of shaft 10, a harrowing chapter unfolds. 3 miners trapped for more than 6 months emerge from darkness into the blinding light of day. For half a year, their world was defined by darkness and despair. Unemployment and poverty is what led them to these haunting shafts.
We all know it's unemployment. It's if they're looking for better life, probably the choice that they did, it's not the correct one, but it just is because of the poverty and they're looking for better opportunities.
As days continue to go by here in Stilfontein, illegal miners continue to resurface, and today 3 miners has resurfaced. We had a chat with them. Let's hear what they had to say.
Ubamnini wami la umfonela uthi izala ukhona umsebenzi okhona la. Ngathi umsebenzi wana ngathi uzobona ufikile ngathi mina umsebenzi lo godana mina anufuni mina ngathi asumsebenzi ogolidi. Mina yasuka eDevton izala. Siphume indlala straight.
Makifita khoma. Mujitael na girovalanga kifite khoma bayotsa kuna lipes job ka pes job hela inke ma diesel yale inke ma diesel tlalwana ka mombo mari fetsa balinka ma diesel banywetsa bandate banywetsa go nna ke tsantse kena ka mining na ka mining vela ke kenile.
But while the world celebrates their safe return, shadows still loom dark in shaft 11, where many more remain lost to the treacherous depth of the illicit gold mining operations.
Number 6 kuna le batho ba 3. Tseleng kuna batho ba 4. Lina le 3 le tswile. Le khonile go re tswa le fa kanti.
Angazi mare basibalile ngeFriday bese 385. So ya bashonile ukhona uyi1.
Across town, in a different kind of darkness, over 300 individuals await judgment at the Stilfontein Magistrate Court. They were apprehended as they resurfaced back into the world above.
We're here to observation the process to include our citizens. The illegal mine involved in this process.
However, for the community members, they feel abandoned, their concerns falling on deaf ears. They rally for the rescue of those still trapped below, but their own safety is becoming a casualty of their advocacy. Fear has crept into the hearts of those who dare to speak.
So amapolisa arasa bayazi investigate benzani bavusa abantu ebusuku balandela abafazi ebusuku babathusela ukuthi mabayiyeke lento leyo ukuthi balwela amalungelo abantu.
As time slips away, the question lingers: why hasn't the rescue mission begun? This isn't just a story of survival, it's a plea for humanity, because in the face of bureaucracy and danger, lives hang in the balance. In Stilfontein, Northwest Province in South Africa. For News Central, Bongani Siziba.
Well, talking about the miners and shaft 10 and 11 as well, joining me now is News Central's Bongani Siziba. Bongani, this seems to be one of the saddest stories to emanate from Southern Africa. Can you bring us up to speed with the latest?
Good morning, Joe, and also good morning to all viewers. It's still the same thing. It's waiting game. here in Stilfontein Mine, but rather today we are having the Minister of Police, that is Senzo Mchunu, who is coming to this community just to speak to the community members. And what the questions has been, especially among the community members, that it's no longer time to be speaking, it's no longer time for the ministers to be coming here and talking to the communities, but rather what they want is the rescue team underground, or rather rescue machines to go underground to try and rescue those who are underground in shaft 11. Like I've been always saying, Joe, that the ones that are coming out are not from shaft 7. They are coming out from the surrounding shafts that are around, also around shaft 11. So those that are still in shaft 11, none has come out and none has been rescued. So this is what the communities are saying here. But we know that the minister says he is coming here with also the MEC, Wessels Moreng, also coming in here just to get an understanding of, you know, that last week a camera was sent underground just to get data to see what's going on underground. So the minister says he's coming in also to check on that report so that if a rescue is to commence, they know exactly what they are looking forward to. Because we know that the mine is not just a straightforward thing. It has caves inside, so that when they are sending rescue there, so that they know how to handle this situation. So this is the situation that is happening this morning. Nothing more. Rescue team is not yet here. It's only the security, the police, but the communities are asking the relevant authorities why the rescue team hasn't been sent down the mine just to see how it goes, because we heard that there are bodies down the mine, and also we heard that there are those that are very weak and sick. So the communities have questions. We'll see how that pans out when the minister comes here this afternoon.
All right. We'll be looking forward to hear from the minister and also follow through with those we hear already dead while inside there as well. Thank you so much, Bongani Siziba. We'll talk to you again at the top of the hour for 12. Welcome back. Georgian riot police fired tear gas and water cannons at protesters in Tbilisi, the capital, and other cities across Georgia. The protesters were demonstrating against the government's decision to delay pursuing European Union accession. The government's decision came after the European Parliament rejected the results of the October 26 parliamentary elections, alleging significant irregularities. The Georgian government has delayed its pursuit of EU membership until 2028, despite getting EU candidate status in December 2023. The opposition has accused the government of fraud in the recent elections and is boycotting the new parliament. President Salome Zarubishvi has declared the ballot unconstitutional and is seeking to annul the election results.
ყველას მოვუწოდებ, კარგად გაიაზროს, არც პოლიტიკის, არც პარტიული მიმართულების აზრის მნიშვნელობა აღარ აქვს, ქვეყანა გვეკარგება. გასაქცევს კიდევ ერთხელ მოვუწოდებ ყველას, ყველა ვიპოვით აუცილებლად, მაგრამ ეს საქართველოს აღარ დაგხვდება უკან.
ეს რომ იმ მთელი ამ პერიოდის ჩვენი ისტორიის განმავლობაში რაც გვინდოდა ევროკავშირი მაგაზე ფაქტურად უარი თქვეს, ოღონდ თან ისე უთხრეს, რომ ევროკავშირში ჩვენ ვუთხარით უარი, ხალხის რეაქცია ადეკვატური იყო, დარწმუნებული ვარ, უფრო ადეკვატური იქნება მომავალ დღეებში და ეს არ უნდა დაუშვათ. ანუ
წარე კონსტიტუციური გადატრიალება პრაქტიკულად დღეს ქართულმა ოცნებამ შეასრულა პუტინის დავალება, მიიღო კიდევაც მადლობა და საქართველოს
Taj Marine Academy continued to dominate in the Dover Handball Premier League as they smashed Adamawa Warriors 44-25 on Thursday for their second straight win. This follows coach Adewumi Shitu's team's 35-27 victory over Correction Boys on Wednesday, keeping Taj Marine on track for their first league title. In other men's games, Rima Strikers defeated Benway Buffaloes 37-21, while Owena King claimed a walkover against Confluent Stars, who remain absent this season. In the women's category, Delta Queens edged Imo Grasshoppers 35-34 in a thrilling clash, while league leaders Safety Babes beat Seasiders Babes 32-30. The defenders Babes also routed Bendel Dynamos 42-23. Nigeria's cricket team, the Yellow Greens, made history on Thursday, claiming victory over Botswana in Abuja to win the ICC Men's Cricket World Cup qualifiers sub-regional C playoffs. The final saw Nigeria score 181 runs in 20 overs, while Botswana managed just 104 runs all out in 18.2 overs. The Yellow Greens won by 77 runs, securing an unbeaten record in the tournament. Karim Ridwan was named player of the match, while Isaac Danladi shined with 80 runs off 45 balls. Captain Sylvester Okwe praised his team, saying their confidence and determination paid off. Cricket Federation President Uyi Akpata called the event a huge success, celebrating Nigeria's hosting of world-class cricket. Nigeria and Botswana have now advanced to the Africa qualifiers. And that's all we have for you on the news for this hour. Let's take a look at the top stories once more. Labour Union hold last-minute talks, threaten strike on December 1st over new minimum wage implementation. House of Representatives confirms General Olufemi Oluyede as Nigeria's new Chief of Army Staff. Chad ends military cooperation with France, and that's not a story that we brought to you this hour. We have more stories and more for you, but you can watch us live every now and then on DSTV channel 422, Star Times 274, Open Havens Prime, Avo TV, Limex, and stream live on Facebook and also on YouTube. Stay with us 10 a.m. It will be time for Jasiri. I'm Joe Hansen. Good morning.